Well, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana delivered his maiden budget speech in Parliament on Wednesday. Godongwana announced no major tax increases during his speech. Livhuwani Naledzani, a Senior Debt Counsellor at Debt Rescue, joins us now to comment on the impact key elements of the proposed budget will have on South African consumers. Livhuwani, thank you so much for your time this morning. So you do believe that Minister Godongwana presented a consumer-friendly budget that obviously looks at alleviating as much as possible. And maybe the question is that, do we need to look at the sustainability of it, being able to balance the consumer needs versus the fiscus needs?
Thank you very much, Faith, and the viewers at home. The minister is in a very difficult position as we speak. He is seeking to alleviate the plight of nearly half of the nation who are reliant on social grant. The budget review knows that the public sector wage bill is a factor in the recovery of the country's public finances because it exceeded what was budgeted for in the previous financial period.
When we're looking at plans of action here, and I mean, if we were looking at even SOEs in the plans of action, right now, Eskom has been given about, 136 billion rand to pay off its debt, and also setting a further aside 88 billion rand for the 2025-2026. With those considerations, right, we've also got Eskom that are facing a brunt of woes. This is not just an Eskom story, but when we're looking at also the existing SOEs that would also need some kind of, pick-me-up, so as it were, or restructuring, so as it were. How do you see that plan of action actually working and playing out?
Eskom has asked for a 20.5% hike, and it was announced on Thursday that the NESA has approved 9.5%. Though this is a significantly better, it is still very high and way above the acceptable inflation rate. Increased percentage. So consumers are tightening their belts wherever they can, but electricity is necessity. And with many people working from home, electricity impacts living expenses hugely, and these increases are placing incredible strain on the consumers who are already struggling to get by. And we are talking about consumers that has been hit hard by the lockdown. So it's going to be very difficult for consumers.
How can government, though, curb any future price hikes? I mean, how do you see them being able to mitigate against the rising future of costs versus the realities that many of us are living with, and that is a significant portion of this population being unemployed, meaning they simply can't afford to anymore?
What I can say, government again finds itself in a very terrible bind with respect to sugar tax. On the other hand, the improved health of the country's citizen, and on the other hand, jobs and energy boosters in the form of sugary drinks. So while it is laudable that government protects citizens from the impact of sugary drinks, they must also consider the unintended consequences of the further job losses and affordable substitutes to fill the void left by the cheap energy drinks, etc. We have already seen the impact on employment, and it is possible that even more jobs could be affected again since the sugar tax was implemented. The demand for the sugar has shrunk by 20%. This has led to many small-scale farmers exiting the industry and could lead to even more doing so. Manufacturers will lose less sugar, and products and consumers will keep making decisions with the buying power. And it will lead to even more decline in the demand of sugar, which will lead to fewer farmers and less employment.
You know, the knock-on effects, as you're speaking about it, is quite a sobering conversation to have, just regarding exactly what the state of South Africa looks like. Should we actually not have contingency measures to perhaps put a cushion on that as well? So in terms of, we always speak about reconstructive economic recovery, being able to completely give an overhaul and really focus on industrialization, really hone in on our policies. At this stage, as you're looking at the trajectory of South Africa, are we able to do that? Reconstructive economic recovery, are we able to actually implement a plan of this nature? There's a plan, but is it an implementable plan?
With the impact of this Ukraine-Russia situation currently being a very big factor, but it's expected to push also the fuel price by over R1. The fuel price increases in 2021 was well over 30%. And there has been a direct and indirect impact on consumers' budget. Direct through the impact on transport and indirect in the impact of goods. As South Africa, we know, has a huge reliance on goods and transport by road. So therefore, the fuel price impacts on the goods and services we buy. The budget did mention that combination of regulatory amendments can reduce petrol by 103 cents per litre, and they are looking at regulated margins. This is a good start. And we need to see what impact will this have. The importance is that this needs to be done as soon as possible, as the consumer cannot carry on like this.
I hear you. Let's talk a little bit about the consumer now. I mean, there are many households who are saying at this moment in time, I just simply cannot afford. I can't afford the price of food. I can't afford the taxes that have been now imposed on the more goods and services. I cannot afford to pay the sin tax. It's just a lot for many households. How then do we see households being able to navigate a very difficult time where the cost of food is becoming a top agenda?
Faith, it's very, very difficult, to be honest with you, because remember, we have been in a 2-year hard lockdown. So at this present moment, consumers cannot even afford to do anything, even to put food on the table. Not talking about paying the debts or anything like that, but just to put food on the table. We are in a situation whereby you find that in a household, one person is working, one has lost his job. So it's also very difficult for them to put just a basic food on the table. But hoping that there are also measures that has been put in place by the government, things like the 350 grant. It's also going to help a lot where it can. But at this present moment, consumers are really struggling. They cannot even afford to do anything.
Yeah, I hear you. It really is a bleak picture as you are painting it to us. We'll have to leave it there. Livhuwani Naledzani just giving us the latest insight, of course, after that budget speech was tabled by the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana.